Wanting to learn how to crochet? Thinking about buying a crochet kit? Then be sure to watch this video where I'll tell you the pros and cons of some of the common crochet kits you'll find on the market. Crochet kits can be a really great option when you're starting out because they include all of the materials that you need to complete your project. But there are a lot of different kits out there and some of them have some real drawbacks. So firstly, the Anko Kmart kits. So if you found my channel, it was probably because you were looking for a tutorial for one of the Kmart Anko crochet kits. The reason I started making these tutorials is because I tried one of these kits to do a review of it for my channel, and I was really shocked at how badly written the instructions were. It was clear to me that lots of beginners were picking these kits up, hoping to learn to crochet, and then getting utterly confused by the instructions. I was disheartened with the idea that beginners might give up on crochet, thinking that it's just too complicated, without realizing that the pattern is just very confusing, even for an experienced crocheter. Obviously, the main advantage for these Kmart kits is they're incredibly cheap. Many of them only cost $5. They range from $5 up to, I think, about $10 for the most expensive one. And to be honest, you'll struggle to buy a ball of yarn for $5 these days. And generally, I think it's great that Kmart are making a lot of arts and crafts more accessible with their craft kits. However, as you probably already know if you've tried one of these kits, they're not beginner friendly at all. So firstly, their instructions are confusing and hard to follow, but also the quality of the materials they use is really poor. Guess this isn't surprising for a $5 kit, but what I think beginners may not realize is that using poor quality yarn and hooks will just make it even harder for you to crochet, especially if you're new. The yarn that's included in the Anko kits is very splitty, and what that means is it falls apart into its individual strands really easily. This means when you're crocheting with it, it can be hard to see your stitch, and it's really easy to accidentally split the yarn into its individual fibers, which will leave your final project looking messy. The hooks that they include in these kits are also really poor quality, which means that they're going to snag on your yarn's not going to move smoothly or easily, and it's going to make your crocheting experience much harder. My other main bugbear with the Kmart kits is they often don't include enough yarn to finish your project. I think probably about 80 or 90% of the Kmart kits that I've done, I've run out of at least one color yarn. This is super frustrating because often the purpose of getting a kit like this is getting everything that you need in the kit to finish your project without having to buy an entire ball of yarn just to use one color. So personally, I actually think the Kmart kits are probably best for experienced crocheters who want to make the item and who can kind of make sense of the patterns without more detailed instructions. I think the Kmart kits will also be a really great affordable option if you're wanting to teach someone else how to crochet, but in my opinion they're just not the most beginner friendly if you haven't done much crochet before. So another really popular crochet kit out there are the Woobles, and the Woobles I think is a response to some of these low quality kits in the sense that they put a much greater emphasis on good detailed instructions, video tutorials, and materials that are easier for beginners to use. So the Woobles kits come with their easy peasy yarn, which is designed to be a beginner friendly yarn with step-by-step tutorials for all of their kits. So the main issue with the Woobles kits is they're pretty expensive for what you get. So the basic Pierre the Penguin crochet kit, which is one of their main beginner starter kits, costs $30 US, which is almost 50 Australian dollars, for what is a pretty small finished product. There are also some quality issues apparently with the Woobles kits. I know that Tony Lipsey from TL Yarn Crafts recently did a review of their advent calendar and found that many of the crochet hooks they included in their kit were misaligned, which makes them completely unusable. The other issue with the Woobles kits, in my opinion, is that they focus on amigurumi or crochet toys, as do many crochet kits, including the Kmart ones. I think the fact that many kits focus on amigurumi is because they're super cute and they have great shelf appeal. But personally, I actually think amigurumi is not the best place to start if you're a beginner. And that's because amigurumi tends to actually be quite tricky and fiddly. You need to have really tight, neat stitches for your final project to come out looking good. I personally don't actually enjoy doing amigurumi nearly as much as I prefer making things like cardigans and blankets. And I know many other experienced crocheters feel the same way. And the reason that I prefer these kinds of projects is because crochet for me is a really relaxing and mindful activity. I work a busy and stressful job, and I love to unwind at the end of the day with a crochet project, which I find is a great way to use my hands while watching TV instead of doom scrolling on my phone. But the kind of projects that are perfect for that kind of relaxing activity are those that have easy, repeatable patterns and loose, flowy stitches, and that's not amigurumi. So I think when you're starting out at crochet, it's really good to try a whole range of different projects to see which types you like best. Some people really love amigurumi, particularly particularly given the final products are adorable. And if making crochet toys is the reason that you want to crochet, then that's great, and that's what you should focus on. But if you want to be able to make home decor, bags, purses, blankets, clothing, then starting with amigurumi won't actually teach you many of the things that you need to know to be able to do these other kinds of projects. And that's because amigurumi tends to use one stitch, and that's the single crochet stitch. And the techniques that you use for amigurumi tend to be quite specific to amigurumi. So it's not a great way to learn some of the basics of crochet that will serve you well for all of those other types of projects. So the final type of crochet kit that I'm familiar with are kits made by the likes of Wool and the Gang and Cardigang. These kits tend to focus on things like clothing and accessories, which personally I do think is a better starting point. I've done some of these kits myself. I generally really like them. They tend to have really lovely yarn. I love the Wool and the Gang yarn. I think these kits can actually be really great for beginners, especially if they come with video tutorials. The main drawback of these kinds of kits is they tend to be very expensive. For example, this bucket hat kit from Cardigang costs 60 Australian dollars, and that doesn't include a crochet hook, compared to $8 for the one from Kmart. Also, I think with these kits, you're often paying for the branding. The patterns that Wool and the Gang and Cardigang use are generally regarded within the crochet community as being fairly basic patterns, many of which you can find very similar patterns online for free. So if you're a beginner crocheter, then the fourth option is the Learn to Crochet kit that I've just developed myself over the last 6 months or so. The reason that my kit is a little bit different from the other ones you'll find in the market is that I've designed this as a Learn How to Crochet course in kit form. So by that I mean that I very deliberately designed each of the patterns so that they cover some of the fundamental concepts that you'll want to understand when you're learning how to crochet. Each pattern builds on the skills that you learned in the prior pattern, and the kit includes everything you need to make 4 great little projects. By the end of the kit, you'll basically be able to tackle any beginner, advanced beginner, and even some intermediate crochet patterns. As part of the video tutorials that I provide with the kit, you'll not only learn how to make these 4 projects, but also how to read the parts of your stitch, how to count your rows, how to use stitch markers to keep your edges straight, why you might use certain stitches for certain types of projects, how to do borders. And unlike the Kmart kits, you can be confident that you'll definitely have enough yarn to finish your projects. I've designed this kit because I really wanted to provide something that I couldn't find on the market for beginner crocheters, that addresses some of the downsides and downfalls of some of these other types of crochet kits. I've also focused on using yarns that are easy to use for beginners, but also expose you to some of the differences that you'll get between different types of yarns. If you're interested in grabbing one of these kits for yourself, be sure to check them out in my YouTube storefront, or you can find me on Etsy, or if you're in Australia, on madeit.com.au. Anyway, thanks so much for watching this video. I really hope that you found it useful. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below about any crochet kits that you've tried and what your experience of them was like. Thanks for watching, and happy crafting!